Hello everybody, my name is Joshua and I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we discuss books, both new and old. I'll share with you pictures of my cats who make you wish they were your cats. Now we're drinking of coffee for me and everybody watching. So, as you can see, the setup is different again today. I finally got onto the bookshelf. It is not nearly enough. I am still in need of at least one more, maybe two. Still have books all over the floor here, under the desk, on top of the desk, tucked up over there, on Page's bookshelves. But it's a start. It certainly helps. It gets all of these up and off the floor. I've been gone again for a few weeks, maybe a month. And so I just want to do a little catch up on where I'm at in my reading and then show you some of the books that I have recently purchased. Now, I've been doing these challenges to go through a certain number of books before buying more books. The first was a 50 book challenge, and that one went really well. I read 50 books, and by the end of it, I had unhauled 54. So that was either me finishing them, deciding I didn't want them, and getting rid of them, or starting them, realizing it wasn't a book for me, and getting rid of it immediately. So that one was great. This last one, not so much. I only made it to the halfway point. I read 11 books before buying more books, but I did unhaul 9. So at least I'm fairly consistent in that regard. I'm unhauling about as many as I'm reading. So I'm going to start a new one today, another new challenge today. It'll be 20 books again, and I'm just going to keep this going. I'm going to consistently try to read 20 books before buying new books. As far as where I'm at right now in my reading, I was flying through books at the beginning of the week, beginning of the month, just flying through my TBR. I had 10 physical books picked out, and the first 5 were they were done like that. And then it was a combination of many things. It was a combination of news about our dear friend Pax, a combination of my wife leaving out of the state for work, and some other stuff going on with family that I stopped. I didn't get any reading done. I didn't get anything done, for that matter. I was just at a total dead standstill with everything. I'm finally starting to get out of that a little bit. My wife is back as of yesterday, which helps tremendously. And I'm just, I'm sorting through things in my own head. So hopefully I can snap out of that. I fully intend to finish this book today. In fact, by the time this video is up, this book should be done. This is Rin Chupeco's The Sacrifice, which is a really excellent book. If you look on my Goodreads to see how long I've been reading this short 300-pager, it is not indicative of the fact that it's not a good book. I've wanted to pick this book up, I just haven't been able to. But I should zoom through this last 120 pages here today, no problem. It's a beautiful book as far as the cover goes, and I'm really enjoying it. Really enjoing that. The next book I'm supposed to pick up after that, notice that I say supposed to pick up, is Zoran Zhao's Iron Widow. And I say supposed to pick it up because this is what I had slated originally, but one of the books that I had picked up since is Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel, and I kind of want to replace Iron Widow with this, but I don't know. I'm just really excited to read it because I love the Hocus Pocus movies. The first one was fantastic. The second one was surprisingly well done considering the time between. And, Bette Midler is just a delight at all times. So, let me know what you think down below whether I should stick with Iron Widow as I originally planned, or whether I should jump into Hocus Pocus and the sequel instead. I'm a little undecided on that. They're about the same size, actually, so that won't change anything. That catches you up kind of on what I'm reading as far as the physical books go. Ebooks, I'm on my last ebook that I chose for the month, The One You Feed by James Drummond, and I'll put it somewhere over here. This is a werewolf novel, which, of course, now all werewolf novels have a particularly high standard to try to hit, thanks to our friend Troy and his book, The Forsaken Boy. Excellent novel there. So far, The One You Feed is good, but I feel like it is having a little bit of trouble deciding whether it wants to be young adult or adult. And I'll be honest, at times I feel like The Sacrifice has that same issue somewhat. But it's a good novel so far, The One You Feed. I'm only maybe 33% of the way in though, and it's about 400 pages, so I certainly have a way to go. Audiobooks, I just finished my second audiobook for the month, maybe my third. And I didn't really have anything picked after that. I was looking around. I think I'm going to start Frank Herbert's The Jesus Incident, which is essentially about a sentient, hyper-intelligent ship that kind of becomes a god figure for the people who travel on it. And that pretty much catches you up on my reading currently. Now, as far as the books that I wanted to show off, based upon what I've said about trying to get rid of books, this looks like a lot of books that I got. But some of these were gifted to me, purchased for me. Many of them actually came from our local Salvation Army store that sells their books for 49 cents. And I'll tell you that there is no debating, if you are at all interested in a book and it's only 49 cents, you're going to purchase the book. So that's kind of what happened there. And then there are a few that came from Barnes & Noble that either I purchased or my wife purchased for me. It's kind of a mix here. I'm just going to dive in. This first is Promise Not to Tell by Jennifer McMahon. Now, you hear this lady's name a lot on BookTube, mainly for books like The Winter People. I have not read anything by her yet, so this will be my first. This is about a school nurse who goes back home to take care of her mother who has Alzheimer's. The night she arrives, a young girl is murdered horrifically. The thing about this is that 30 years prior, her best friend was murdered in the same way. So that girl's killer was never found. She immediately starts thinking, because of the way this girl was killed and a few other reasons, that this is the same killer. 49 cents, can't pass it up, you know? This is a kid's book that I found that I bought strictly based off the cover. I didn't even read what it was about. It's just the cover is so nuts and all over the place that I had to get it. And again, it was 49 cents. This is The Night the Whole Class Slept Over by Stella Pevsner. Just look at that. What in the world is going on with these kids? I don't know about you, I never had any sleepovers like this. So, no idea what this is about, but the book was just super cool looking. Alright, now this one is from the Shadow Zone series, which is a series that most people probably haven't heard of unless you're like Cameron Chaney. But the book is Guess Who's Dating a Werewolf? And again, I really don't need to say anything about this. Coming from Barnes & Noble. Now, I had this book previously. I read it. I loved it. And then I gave my copy to someone. And for a while there, it became hard to find a new copy. But they have since been reprinted due to a movie version. This is just a fantastic book for any time of the year, but of course for Halloween. This is Norman Partridge with Dark Harvest. And if you have not read this delightful, quick little, nearly novella length, really, it's 167 pages, so it can be read in one sitting. If you haven't read this, it's fantastic for anyone who has Halloween in their heart, like I do. This was a book series that I never had a chance to read, but of course I've heard about for years and years. My wife loved this series, and recently my sibling Shy picked up the series and started going through it. Again, at Salvation Army, I found a copy of the first book in awesome condition, so I am finally, at the age of 29, going to experience Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series with The Lightning Thief. This one is kind of crazy. This is G.P. Taylor with Wormwood. And the blurb is very quick, but I want to share it with you. It says, panic fills the streets of 18th century London one night when the earth suddenly lurches forward and starts spinning out of control. Within moments, 11 days and nights flash through the sky, finally leaving the city in total darkness. Is the end of the world at hand? Is there any hope left? Sold me on it, 100%. Now, somewhere on my shelves here, I have a copy of Wicked by Gregory Mcguire. I still haven't read it, but I will soon. And, again, at the same Salvation Army, this place was awesome, guys. I found Son of a Witch by Gregory Mcguire with, of course, the awesome step back cover. Still haven't experienced this. Looking forward to experiencing it. I'm assuming that Son of a Witch maybe follows Wicked, but I'll have to look and make sure that there's not a book in between or something like that. The next one is a pretty interesting mystery novel. This is Lauren Estelman with Alive. And this is about a movie collector who has been on the hunt for years and years for this one film that shows test footage. It's a test screening of Bela Lugosi as the original Frankenstein's monster rather than Boris Karloff. So he finds someone who actually has a copy, and when he arrives to make this purchase, the person he's buying it from has been murdered and the footage has been stolen. It just had an interesting premise, a mystery wrapped around a very, very famous horror movie. Now, as some of you know, Paige, my wife, recently started her booktube channel. Hers is more about romance with some mystery and YA. This was one that I picked up that I thought we could both read together and review, because it had a little bit of what I like and a little bit of what she likes. This is Michelle Hodkin with The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. And the blurb on this one says, Mara Dyer doesn't think life can get any stranger than waking up in a hospital with no memory of how she got there. It can. She believes there must be more to the accident she can't remember that killed her friends and left her mysteriously unharmed. There is. She doesn't believe that after everything she's been through, she can fall in love. She's wrong. So, like I said, it sounded like one that, has some of the horror elements that I like, with some of the romance elements she likes. Figured we could read it and review it together, and if it's terrible, then we've both experienced it, and I'm not suffering on my own. Alright, here we have a sort of mystery crime thriller. This is Andrew Billings with Carnage. This is about a woman who ends up with a stalker, and at first things are fairly innocent, at least as far as stalking goes, but then he starts sending her videos of the last moments of these people. He's killing them, filming it as he kills them, and then starts sending the videos to her. So things really escalate from there, because then he starts going after her friends and family. So quick, dirty, hopefully delightful. Recently I read Anne Rivers Siddons' The House Next Door, and I loved her style of writing, although it was rather tragic at the same time. And I'm well aware that that horror novel was an outlier for her, and that she mostly just writes more of the southern, almost southern gothic, southern family saga, if you will. I wanted to read more. I wanted to experience more and see what she does, because I kind of really dig that thing, you know, that sort of realm, you know. So I picked up her book Fox's Earth, which is about 3 or 4 generations of women as they grow into and out of abusive relationships, health issues, both mental and physical, and just all centered around this one ancestral home. This next one is a steampunk fantasy. This is S.M. Peters with Whitechapel Gods. This, of course, because it is steampunk, must take place in Victoria, London. In particular, there is a wall that cuts off the Whitechapel section from the rest of everything else, and that area is ruled by 2 mechanical gods, Mama Engine and Grandfather Clock. And that's enough to sell me on it right there. Thankfully for people like me who maybe did not get to experience all of the Fear Street books as much as I did the Goosebumps books back in the day, there's a lot of reissues happening now with the Fear Street books in particular, and some of them are being compiled and collected. So in this case, this is Fear Street the Beginning, and it has the first 4 books in the series, which is fantastic, and I really like what they're doing with these covers, actually. So I said this is sort of an omnibus version, and man, it was $13 at Barnes & Noble for 4 of the Fear Street books. I mean, you go on eBay right now to get the original, and you're paying more than that for one of them, you know. So this is fantastic for people like me. I love the cover, and sure, it's not the original thing, but in this case, I'm okay with that. This is a book that I loved the first time I read it. Paige loathes it. And I would like her, now as an adult, to give it another chance. But we'll see. She really, really disliked this book back when we read it. This is William Golding's Lord of the Flies. I know this was required reading for a lot of people back in school, so thoughts and opinions on this, guys. Lord of the Flies, did you dig it? Did you hate it? And want to bury it? Let me know down below. Alright, for some fantasy, this is by an author that I have not read before, but this is sort of one of those sweeping, politically involved fantasies, where it's more about the castle intrigue than it is, you know, fighting dragons and demons. This is Cass Morris with From Unseen Fire. Again, 49 cents. It intrigued me enough. I like fantasy all around, and I do like fantasy, you know, involving big epic battles and that, but I'm almost more intrigued by the by the behind the scenes, the political, the power struggles that take place in meeting rooms and that in regards to the fantasy realm. So this one was right up my alley, and figured I'd give her a try. This was one that, again, isn't typically my kind of read, but it was 49 cents, and what was interesting about it is when it was first sold, it was 50 cents. So this is Jim something or other, not even going to say his last name, with Fire Hunter. I guess I'm going to be more in the Tarzan realm on this one than anything else. But it's just it's a neat old Scholastic book. It is from 51. So there you go. Last few here, guys. We're getting into it. I know this is a lot of books, but this has been a culmination of some of these I got actually before I started my initial book buying ban. Then I got some after the first one, and then I got some after this one, and I've been gifted books in between. So this is just a lot of books. This is Suzanne Wayne with the barcode tattoo. This is any future where everyone gets a barcode that is supposed to make your life easier and put your identity and all your information right there. And what's interesting about this is there's been talk of similar things and some paranoia in regards to, of course, the coronavirus, etc., etc. Not going to get into all that. But what's interesting is this kind of posed those questions and ideas back in 2004. So I thought it was kind of relevant to what people are discussing nowadays. I've said that I want to read more cozy mysteries. I happened to see this one that seemed to be right up my alley. This is Shirley Damsgaard with Charmed to Death. It is a cozy murder mystery involving cats and witches. I'm sold. Now, Robert Cormier is an author that many people are familiar with. This is a book from him that I was not familiar with. It is The Rag and Bone Shop. And this involves a young girl who is murdered horrifically. The last person to see her alive is this boy named Jason. And from what I understand, this book is pretty much him in the interrogation room with the interrogator just prodding and poking and trying to get him to confess that he is the one that killed her. Now, this is another one that I have read before, but I thought it was so awesome that I managed to pick up a copy for 49 cents. This is Jeff Robin's Vespers, about giant bats attacking people. It's a delightful book, and I'm really happy to own a copy now, because previously I only had the audiobook. As for another cozy mystery, I got Sharon St. George's Due for Discard. Yes, that is a llama standing on a pile of books in a dumpster. I don't know what's going on, but it was 49 cents, and I'm going to find out. This is one that sold me just based off the cover. This is Chris Crutcher with Iron Man. And this is actually about two people, two youngsters, if you will, who kind of fall for each other. But he is a football player, and she is training to be an American gladiator. So they are kind of bonding over the physical prowess that they both have, which I thought was kind of interesting. Now, this one came from the author directly. She has signed it to me very graciously. This is a poetry collection titled Blank Canvas. And this particular author, she recently wrote, she's starting to write a comic book series about Fang, a telepathic vampiric cat. Really delightful stuff, but this is her first poetry collection. And I was very excited to get my hands on it, and even more excited to have a signed copy. So this one is probably going to be in my TBR for next month. And actually, these next few books are probably going to be in my TBR for next month. This one, is LeVar Burton. Yes, LeVar Burton of the Reading Rainbow wrote a science fiction novel titled Aftermath. And he actually wrote this back in like 96. So this is a reissue with a new introduction by him. And what's interesting is some of the things that he predicted in this book ended up coming true in regards to Barack Obama being elected as president, and a lot of the backlash that some of the American people had about that. But it gets into that, and it is sort of a dystopian society almost. And I more picked it up, more than anything, because it's LeVar Burton. He had a major impact on many young folk. A lot of them picked up reading because of this man. And for that, we need to applaud him. We need to praise him. We need to support him. And so I will do that by purchasing this book. And I'm really excited to see where he goes with this. Next up, I have one that I have not seen anybody talk about, but it sounded fantastic. This is Anne Freystadt with What We Harvest. This lovely cover. I'm going to quickly read you the back. It says, Miracles don't come free. It began by consuming the crops Hollow's End was famous for, thick silver sludge bleeding from the earth. Next were the animals. Infected livestock and wild creatures staggered off into the woods by day, only to return at night, their eyes fogged white, leering from the trees. Then the blight came for the neighbors. Wren is among the last in Hollow's End standing, and the blight has finally come for her too. Now the only one she can turn to is her ex, Derek, a lifelong Hollow's Ender. But there's so much they don't know about their hometown and its supposed miracle crops. And Wren and Derek are the only ones left to settle old debts. So, I think it's actually YA, but it's small town. It involves, autumnal Halloween sort of concept. I've heard anyone talk about this, but the book itself looks really, really cool. I'm really excited to get into that one. And then the final book that I picked up, I've been so curious, and I finally just couldn't stop myself. I had to get it. This is the first in a new trilogy, actually. This is Josephine Ruby with Daphne and Velma, The Vanishing Girl. This is a continuation, of course, of Scooby-Doo, more focused on the girls this time, but I've been told, and have it on good authority, that they don't try to make it super scary, they don't try to make it more adult. It's about as scary as an episode of Scooby-Doo, and kind of runs the same way. So if you enjoy Scooby-Doo, you're going to enjoy these books. I love Scooby-Doo. I'm still a child at heart. I think most of us are. We just don't let that child out of its cage, and sometimes a child needs to be let free to roam, So this is my child roaming. I can't wait to read this. This is definitely going on my TBR for next month. And that, my friends, will cover it. I'm sure there are other books I have around that I haven't shown off, but this was a ton of books. I hope I did not bore you, but if you saw any of them in the list that you think I should get to immediately, please let me know. I'm going to call it quits here because this is kind of a long video. I will be back soon with a tag video and then some other good stuff coming up. Should be getting back on schedule now. I'm feeling a little better, and just, I wasn't in the right headspace before, but I'm getting there. Hey, totally forgot to show you this awesome shirt. Alright, that's all. Stay safe, drink great coffee. Cheers.